Welcome back to the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Conquer the Gauntlet Pro and Strength and Speed owner, Evan Paris. I do have another guest also. Before we get to that, a quick word from our sponsors. So, this episode is brought to you by OOFOS. If you're not familiar with OOFOS, they are the recovery sandals. They absorb 37% more impact than traditional running shoe foam. It's what I wear after all my ultra-OCRs, and especially when I'm tapering in for a big event. So today's Mother's Day, and we're about 7 days out from Toughest Mudder, the first Toughest Mudder of the year. So I'll be rocking my OOFOS a lot this week to try to make sure my taper is adequate enough so I show up. So yeah, check out OOFOS. They've got a lot of great styles. They have sandals, they have slides, they have shoes, they have boots, they have clogs, a little bit of everything. And they just came out with some new color options, including white ones. Previously, most of them were black with some sort of other color highlight. Check out OOFOS, www.oofos.com. All right, joining me on the podcast, we have Kris Ruglowski. Kris came from a fairly, basically no athletic background, besides occasionally playing some sports with their friends. Tried AOCR in 2016. First did a Tough Mudder, then a Spartan Beast, but didn't really start racing until the end of 2017. Her first podium was at the Spartan Beast in Canada, which came in second. Then she got a coin, which invited her to the World Championship for the second time at Killington, and finished the year with a third place Ultra Beast finish in Dallas. Over the past year and a half, she's run and won and podiumed in about 30 OCR races, so even though she's only been involved in the sport for a couple of years, already racking up an impressive amount of finishes. And on top of that, occasionally she does other sports. So she's done a sprint try, done a couple of ultra marathons. She won her age group in both distances at NORAM OCR World Championship in 2018, and many of you may know her from being on the Titan Games, which she competed in earlier this year or last year? Earlier this year, right, Karis?
Yeah, it was filmed last year, but aired earlier this year.
Okay. And then also competed in Ninja Warrior, which hasn't aired yet, so we probably can't talk about that too much. So, Kris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
In your bio, you said you came from basically a no athletic background, so just kind of really drive that point home. Tell the listeners kind of what you mean by did you not play sports in high school or anything like that?
I played no sports in high school or the little college that I did. Lived fairly active, but sports was not something my parents involved us in. Just messed around, stayed active, didn't do any sports officially. My brothers all did sports, but they didn't really have us girls do them. So, just kind of messed around. And then, I guess it was my grandpa did marathons, and so my mom would always say I'd be a good runner, but never really tried it. And it wasn't until I started my sisters and I did a Tough Mudder, and I was like, oh, like this is really fun. I'm not good at, or I never considered myself good at running, and I disliked running, but breaking it up with the obstacles was really fun, and it made it a little more interesting. And I was like, but it wasn't until the end of 2017 when I realized like, oh, there's a competitive side to this, and it's something I could actually like train for and get good at.
So when you did that first Tough Mudder, was it as a group and you just kind of jogged with your friends? Was that the
so it was with my two sisters and a friend of ours who had he sprained his ankle the night before, and none of us knew what to expect. We were just going to stick together and have fun. We walked a good majority of it, and I was pretty underwhelmed because everybody had been talking about mud runs and Tough Mudders, and a couple friends on Facebook had done them, and we did it, and I was like, none of those obstacles were crazy hard, and everybody walks it, because of course we went in an open wave at like noon or something. I was like, everybody walks these, and the obstacles weren't anything crazy. So I was a little underwhelmed, but then I'd heard Spartan was harder, so I was like, well, I want to try Spartan before I pass judgment and just move on.
And how long after that first Tough Mudder did you actually start training?
The first Tough Mudder. I did the first Tough Mudder at College Station in May. And then
Of
I did that
2016.
of 2016, yeah.
Yep.
And then I did the Dallas Beast at the end of 2016. And then I was like, I wanted to get a trifecta. And I didn't realize it had to be in a calendar year. So the following year, 2017, I did the Austin Super at like the end of May. And then I moved out to Virginia for the summer and did the Virginia Sprint. And I was like, well, there's my trifecta, but I met somebody at the Virginia Sprint who, and that's where I heard about the Ultra Beast and heard about like there's elites that like travel around and do these and win money and all this. So that kind of like opened everything up, but I wasn't able to race much over the summer. So it wasn't until September 2017 is when I kind of like tried to train some over the summer, but it was really just kind of running more. I didn't know what I was doing. So I went up to Canada because it was, not too far of a drive from where I was in Virginia. Went up to Canada and did the Toronto.
Seems like a far drive,
meet.
but okay.
I mean, it was like 7 hours to the border.
Okay.
It was doable, or to me, it was doable.
Yeah.
So I went up there, and it was only like 3 hours over the border. The race was. So went up there and still, didn't know anybody up there, but I decided to run in the elite. Oh, I volunteered and ran in the elite. So that's what I was doing, was I was volunteering. So I volunteered, and you pay like $30 to upgrade, or back then you paid $30 to upgrade to elite. So I ran in the elite and was like all excited to do a race like competitively. And so I just started out fast and stayed fast. I think I fell off the Z wall, and that's where I got stuck in second, but it took forever and I was dying. And it was also during the Canadian championships. It was like their Canadian championships race. So there were a lot of other people that were already on the course. So I didn't even realize I was in second until I like came over the finish and was like, oh, I'm in second. Like this. And so I think, but that also like cleared out some of the competition with a lot of the more competitive people in the Canadian championships.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah, that was my first podium, and I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, I want to do this again. So then I had decided to do the Vermont race, and I didn't realize it was the hardest Spartan race at the time or whatever. So I went and did that, but I realized that like maybe, soon after the Canada race, Killington was a week later. Anyway, so I realized that, and I was like, whoa, what did I get myself into? But I had a lot of fun at Killington, and since then I've heard about like, oh, how the course has been in the past and all that kind of stuff. But I came in, I think I was like 5th or 6th on the elite females. And I learned about the coin thing when I was in Canada because I met some racers up there. Anyway, so it was that whole end of the year was just a process of like, oh, what? And like, just kind of learning stuff, figuring stuff out. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I was like, this is fun. And I found you can volunteer and race for free, or, it was like $14 insurance, and then, you upgrade to the elite. And so started doing those, and then it was, came back to Texas and did the Ultra Beast. That was the hardest race of my life, probably still to this day. Just because I'd gotten back, I was staying with my parents in San Antonio and just kind of like lounged around for the month before it. And then it's like, all right, let's go. And my plan on that, my thought was like, well, you have 24 hours to finish it. And I was like, I've never done 30 miles before, but like I can do it in 24 hours. And so that was my plan going into it. But as soon as we started out, turns out I have a competitive streak. So as soon as we started out, I was like, oh, like I'm going to, we started out at 6 a.m. This is when it was freezing cold. And I, started out going fast, and I stayed in first place for the whole first lap. And then Jackie Rust at Texas, I think she does a lot of longer distances. I don't know. She was on the pro team, I found out this year.
Yep, she was on a couple years ago. She was, yeah.
Yeah. So she passed me up in transition, and then I did the extra lap. Anyways, I got lost, but came out in third. I almost died, but I did come out in third, only because I was just like, well, I gotta get this done.
Well, you obviously belong in the elite heat because I mean you're just racking up podium finishes. But kind of what was when you were like, all right, did you just when you first signed up for your first Spartan, were you like, all right, I'm just going to the elite heat because I'm competitive, or was there like a?
Oh no. So yeah, the first one I did, the first beast I did, I signed up. I just did open and I ran at like noon, I think. And this was the October Beast, and there were like foot-long fish in the creek from everybody going through it. All these dead fish were floating at the top of this creek. Anyway, so I started out, and I was, I had no idea what I was doing, but I paired up with these two guys that were running it too, and they're like, "Are you running it alone?" I was like, "Yeah." And they were a CrossFitter and a marathoner. And so, and I think it might have been their first race too. I don't know, but I stuck with them for a lot of it, and we just tried to like run in between the obstacles. And of course, it was, in the open waves, so there was a ton of backups and everything. But and then we hit the bucket carry, and the bucket carry, everybody was pausing like every couple steps to rest it and all this. So I like made it through that, and again was kind of wasn't super impressive. Like, nobody's running fast and nobody's like trying to finish, and it was, they're expensive, and it's just kind of you're running along trails and trying to do these obstacles. I could barely make up the rope climb because I'd never really climbed ropes before. But it was fun enough. There was a mixture of like, I was born to do this. Like, this wasn't that hard for me. It was fun. And then also like, it wasn't that impressive, but because of that, like, this is really fun. I wanted to do that trifecta. So then I went and did the following year, I did the Super in Austin, and I dragged my sister out, and we had work later that day. So we signed up for the Elite Heat. And as we're standing there, like at the back of the corral, just kind of like, okay, like, let's get this over with. The announcer was all like, "Some of you are here to, to prove yourselves and to make a name for yourselves and all this." And we were just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like, it's just a mud run. Like, I had no idea there was prize money and all that kind of stuff. Anyway,
That's
so
awesome.
we did that one, and I think we finished. I waited for her. She's shorter, and she did a lot of burpees. And I don't know that I failed anything. The tire flip, I remember, was really hard. I wasn't really like, I still had no idea what I was doing, so I don't remember a whole lot, but I didn't fail a whole lot, but she did. And so I waited for her to throw all her burpees, but I was wanting to like, let's, run this because, in the Elite Heat, everybody's a little more competitive. Everybody's actually running. Anyways, I think we finished, I looked back at our results. It's definitely the worst race results ever. But I think we finished in the 20s, or maybe we were like the 30th elites. But some guy there, we were younger, and he was like, "You finished really well for your age. Like, you could probably qualify for, this OCR World Championships, and it's just up in Canada." And I was like, I thought it was interesting, but I had no idea. So it wasn't until I did the sprint in Virginia, and I volunteered and ran the open wave, but I got like one of the fastest open wave times. Like, I tried to run it really fast, and I met a guy there that was working for Spartan at the time, who's from Texas. Anyways, that's where I think that's when I grasped the concept of the elite wave, and there's actually like money when you win, and there's these, prizes and all this. So that was when I decided, okay, I'm going to sign up elite for the next race.
All right. Now, yeah,
Progression there.
so you've had some really good success in Spartan, and I feel like a lot of people who get that initial success in Spartan kind of never leave that brand. Like, they're like, all right, well, I'm good at Spartan, so that's what I do from now on. And they, essentially buy a season pass and then never stray outside that. But I know you've podiumed in a lot of other races. So what made you want to try other brands rather than just sticking with Spartan and kind of follow that route?
A friend had signed me, or a friend and I were going to do a Warrior Dash, like 2 years, or 2 years previous or something, and it had gotten rained out, but I still had that Warrior Dash entry. So on my way back to Texas from living out on the East Coast, I did a Warrior Dash. And I think, yeah, that was my first other race brand besides Spartan and Tough Mudder. And I thought that was really fun. I think it was probably at the Ultra Beast is where I met Matt, who's now my husband. But he had been racing for several years and knew all the different races. And I think probably meeting the Lone Star Spartan people is where kind of like light bulb exploded. And I was like, oh, there's all kinds of races to try. And I just wanted to try them all. I wanted to do them all because I heard, positive and negative things about so many other race brands. And I was like, well, I want to try it. So yeah, I guess it was the following 2018. We just kind of looked up all the races we could and got deals for as many as we could and just raced them all. But that I just wanted to try everything. I was like, these are so fun. I'm enjoying these. Like, what else can I do?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great attitude to have. I just like I said earlier, I think there's a lot of people who I know several people in Spartan who find success and then they're like, all right, well, I'm never doing anything else besides Spartan. It's like, the OCR world's a little bit bigger than Spartan, but
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not sure, it's probably just the people I met, and enough of the people that I met, I don't know where because a lot of people have a negative view of Spartan, and I'm not sure where I picked up on that. But at some point, it was probably from the Lone Star Spartan group, and all these people have done all these other races that are kind of like, yeah, Spartan's okay. But I was like, okay, like, what are these other races? What else is there to try? Um, so yeah, I've done almost every one that I could, I think. I did a terrain race. I've done 2 warrior dashes. I've done a rugged maniac. The Tough Mudders, the Spartans, conquered the gauntlet, savage race. I think that's maybe it.
Cool.
But
well, what do you have planned for 2019? Because it's still pretty early in the season.
yeah, 2019. I'm doing Spartan Austin next weekend. The following weekend, I am flying out to Ohio for American Ninja Warrior. The weekend after that, I was going to do a Conquer the Gauntlet, but something else came up, so I probably won't be doing Conquer the Gauntlet. Maybe I'll do a Conquer the Gauntlet later in the year if a location works out. I'm gonna do the Dallas Stadium race. I haven't done a stadium race yet. I forget what came up last year, but I wasn't able to do one, so I want to try a Dallas Stadium. I don't think I might do a Savage race in July if I can. And then August, I have our gym out here puts on the Grit Games. So I'll be doing the Grit Games. And then the weekend after that is North American Championships. I'm doing a 100-miler in August.
Just throwing it in there. Just
throwing it in there.
Yeah.
I did a 50K in April. I did a 50-miler last year, a 50K in April. And that's it on the, it's just kind of on the thing of like, whoa, people do that? Like, I want to try that. So the 100-miler is one here in Texas, and it's called the Habanero 100. And it starts at high noon. Have you heard of it?
Yeah. It's a fairly well known race. I've not done it, but yeah. Go ahead and tell people about it.
Yeah, I went out there. It's it starts at high noon, and you have until I think 8 or 9, maybe 10 in the morning to finish. But it starts at noon, and you run through the heat of the day, and then overnight, and finish up in the early morning. And the distances, I think they probably have the really short distance, but they also have the 50K, 50-miler, 100K, and 100-miler, and they have the option of doing them in relays. So you can have like, I think 4 or 5 person teams and run, trade off on running laps. So I went out there last year, and there were 2 groups that I knew that were doing the relays. I think one was doing a 100K and one was doing a 100-mile relay. And I just ran laps with them for fun. And I was like, this is really fun. I like the terrain. It's through sand. It's hot. I love hot races. Like I don't do well in the cold. I take the hot any day. And it was just really fun. And somehow I was like, I want to do the full 100-mile next year. So
Cool.
I don't know. I may regret it, but I'm still excited about it for now.
Well, best wishes, and definitely plan some good recovery time in afterwards. I think
Yeah.
those take a large toll physically and mentally on your body than some people.
Yeah, I found that the 50-miler and the 50K this year definitely took a toll on my body, and the 50-miler took until about June to finally get back to normal. I ran too many races not feeling right. My knee, I think it was mainly just my knee that was off. It was my IT band that was causing issues. But anyways, yeah, this year I had my foot and my knee were really gimpy until just like 2 weeks ago, maybe. So I'm back, ready for the race weekend next weekend.
Good. That's good to hear. And you say you had NORAM on the schedule again? North American OCR Championships?
Yep. Planning on NORAM, and then September, I don't have a whole lot of concrete plans yet. That's still up in the air. But then October, we're planning we went out to England last year. We're going to go out again this year. So we're planning on England. We might hit up the Ragnar relay, Hill Country Ragnar relay in October, and then we're also going to do the Dallas. I think I'm going to do the Ultra Beast again. I swore I would never do the Ultra Beast, but I basically did it last year. Last year, I swore I'd never do the Ultra Beast, but I ran the Beast, and then Matt was doing the Ultra Beast, so I went and did the whole second lap with him, and I was like, well, it wasn't that bad. May as well race it again next year. So Ultra Beast in Dallas, not sure on November yet. And then I think I'm going to do a 100-miler in December.
Which one?
The Brazos Bend.
Yeah, that's the one I did.
Oh yeah, what did you think about it?
It's good. It's super flat.
Super flat.
25-mile loops. So it's, most of it's fairly runnable. There's a couple of parts that the ground was a little bit soggy, so you kind of had to schlep through that. But it was, it was cool. And then there's alligators like literally like 5 feet off the trail.
Yeah.
And they
so
just
you
watch
enjoyed doing the 100-miler there, and you didn't notice any like adverse effects, like you weren't any more dead? Because that's where I've done my 50K and my 50-miler. That park is like 40 minutes from where we live.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me thinks that my issues recovery wise have been from the terrain. Like it's not really like a trail, it's a gravel. A lot of it is gravel, some of it's even paved, and the flatness I think maybe like having negative effects on me. So I don't know, we'll see. I haven't signed up for that one yet.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit of the flatness is, again, it's easier to run on flat typically than elevation. The bad parts are you're going to, when there's a little bit of elevation up and down, you'll naturally take walk breaks because the terrain kind of dictates. With a flat course, you tend to not do that. You just kind of run because you can, and it's easy.
So I've heard it also like you use all the same muscles.
Yeah, so I did a 24-hour treadmill OCR earlier this year for charity, and like I was like, oh yeah, flat treadmill will be great, and it just decimated my body. I did not do. I was doing really good for the first 75 miles of the Brazos Bend, but it was a month after World's Toughest Mudder in 2014, and I had not fully recovered. So the last 25 miles of my race took a very long time.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a painful one. But yeah, I think it's a good beginner one. I would just plan for walk breaks earlier rather than waiting till your body has had enough. That would be kind of my one input there.
So you did NORAM pretty early, I would say, in your OCR career, and then on top of that, did really well. So what was kind of your opinions on showing up to an event like that? Because there's a lot of obstacles that are pretty unique to that specific brand and are not really available anywhere else.
Yeah. I heard good things about it, heard good things about the race. Obstacles were definitely, of obstacle course racing, I am probably better at obstacles than I am at running. I think obstacles are just kind of easier to pick up than running is, and coming from zero running, it's taken me a lot to figure out running training and like getting better at running, because I'm pretty, I can go out and run pretty well, but the whole training part and figuring out like a training schedule, a training routine, all that kind of stuff, I feel like I've had really slow progress in running. But obstacles, on the other hand, really fun. They're more enjoyable to learn than running, and I found out I was pretty good at them, and especially working on some at our gym. We have a lot of obstacles that he's built, and just training on those, having fun on those, just climbing around on things in general is absolutely my thing. So I'd heard the obstacles were really good. I think that was maybe the first mandatory completion race that I'd done, but I'd heard things about like, oh, it's mandatory completion, and so if you're good at the obstacles, you have a good chance getting through. Anyways, I just liked how it sounded, and so I went and did age group since it was my first one. And I really enjoyed it. I liked the variety in obstacles, and also that they kind of took from other races. I'd done battle race in Louisiana last year, and they have that what is that one where you jump from platform to platform?
Triumph,
you jump to a slanted.
Yeah, Triumph or Dragons. Triumph is their name for it. Dragon's Back is a European name for it.
Yeah. So I'd done that one, and I'd heard that one was really like, it's a big mental thing. I'd done that one at Battle Race, and I thought it was a blast. So yeah, going into I like the obstacles, and that was definitely the draw for me, is like obstacles, mandatory completion, like that's up my alley for sure.
Nice. So that's good to hear. We're big fans of mandatory obstacle completion on this podcast. So
Yeah.
good stuff.
A lot of people hate on Spartan and dislike Spartan, and I'm not a huge fan. I dislike the burpees, and the fact that, especially I've seen this year, or in the past, they're really not strict on burpees, and they're not strict on form, and people skip burpees all the time. And then seeing this year, they're trying to like buckle down on that, and they're throwing out like 10-minute penalties for not full extension of the burpee. And I'm like, there's so many elites that don't do the full, don't do like a proper burpee. And like, since when has Spartan cared about burpees? But now they're being super picky about it. Anyway, so I have my own. I'm not a huge fan of Spartan, but Spartan is the biggest, like most recognized race. And no matter how like frustrating some of their rules are and their little nitpicky things, like it's a well-run event on a
Yep.
consistent basis. And that's, so I never, I don't know. Like touring the country doing Spartans is kind of but I enjoy hitting them up when I can, because they're good, well-run races.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you definitely hit on some great points there. Yeah, they're the leaders in the industry. They have the most prize money. They broke grounds with
Most things in the sport, like getting people on TV, having a pro team, all that good stuff, giving
Yeah.
large cash prizes,
Yeah.
right? Like just a ton of good stuff. I feel like, because they kind of built their empire on burpees, I feel like they are very hesitant to get rid of them, when I feel like you just get
Yeah.
like, you don't have to get rid of burpees for everyone. Just get rid of it for the elites and switch to mandatory completion. But
Yeah.
that's what they built their brand on. And I think they do it. The other part of with burpees is it allows you to push more people through an obstacle, because you can't try it a second time. You're not allowed to. So
Yeah.
that means you do it
Yeah.
once, and then you have to move out of the way. So it prevents those lines that you would see at a
Oh.
mandatory obstacle completion course. But yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
personally, I'm not a fan, but I recognize all the great stuff they've done for the sport, and I would hate to see anything bad happen
Right.
to them, because again, like when I try to tell people what I do, I'm like, it's like Tough Mudder or Spartan, and they're like, oh, and typically they've heard of at least one
Right.
of those two brands. Um,
Oh yeah.
I think I think every brand basically benefits from having them around, kind of raising the publicity level
Yeah,
overall.
for sure.
a lot of people know you from Titan games. So we haven't really talked about that. I did watch a couple episodes and it was pretty interesting. I'm not a big TV guy, so I did not watch the entire season. But I think we're about to do some spoilers here. So if you have them DVR'd, you might want to pause the podcast right now. But kind of tell people what that experience was like and how you did on the show.
Yeah. Where do you want me to start?
Yeah, let's go kind of explain the show to people, and then explain how you did, and then we'll go with the background stuff later.
Okay. Just explain what it is.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Titan Games. I heard about it. I guess the applications came out in like January of last year. I didn't hear about it until like mid-April. Sent in my application just because I heard they were wanting females. I don't know how I got it. It's kind of sketchy, but it looked interesting. There was a big prize money, and The Rock was involved, and that's kind of, I was like, well, I'll throw my name in the hat. We'll see how that goes. They ended up, I think I was still kind of like a last minute selection, because some people got called back like the day after they sent in their application. But I think they called me about 2 months later, and they were like, hey, this guy, he says, I've been going through thousands of applications. You're what we're looking for. Like, let's talk more. Anyways, we went through the process of just talking. It was really strange going into it, because we had no idea what it was going to be about. Like, there was a basic fitness test that they'd said like you need to do, and but there was no, like, we had no idea what the competition actually was. Like, what are we signing up for? And nobody really said anything. Anyways, they selected, I think, just over 100 that they flew out to LA for a combine, where they did a like physical test. There were 4 aspects to it. It was a short little obstacle course that basically was balance beams, I think a 6-foot wall, an 8-foot wall. You crawled under, basically like a barbed wire crawl, but not barbed wire, but you know, that concept. And then like you pushed a sled, weave poles, and then it was basically like a Herc-hoist, whatever they call that, like from Spartan Race, but you're pulling a barrel up. Anyway, so they did that, and then they did like your max deadlift. They did a kind of a sketchy version of a VO2 max test where you're just on a treadmill and you're, you know, raising the elevation and running faster until you burn out. And then they also did a little monkey bar thing. It was like 10 monkey bars and you go up and down it as many times as you can in a minute. So I showed up out there and I got picked up from the airport with a power lifter who deadlifts 450 pounds and a cop from North Carolina who's like a CrossFitter, and these girls were huge. And I got in the van with them and was like, yeah, I'm in the wrong place. Like, this is a joke. Just send me home. Like, because I'm not, like, I'm decently strong, but I'm no power lifter, no CrossFitter. And then even at the, you know, running into other people, because they put us all up in a hotel, and running into other people at the hotel, I was like, okay, like I am out of place here. But I thought the physical test was good because the monkey bars, of course, I did really, really well at. There were all kinds of people that shredded their hands, just like lost, like not just their calluses, but like whole strips of their hand from trying to stay on the monkey bars for 1 minute. And of course, that was my thing. I was like, that's not too bad. The obstacle course was fun. The deadlift, I had never really deadlifted before, but I had to know my 1 rep deadlift max. So like the week before, my coach was like, hey, like we need to, find out what your deadlift 1 rep max is. And then the VO2 max, like I was like, that's kind of my thing. I can do that. Anyways, waited a couple weeks after that. They called us back and I'd made it on the show, and still nobody really knew what we were getting into, any of that. Just that I think some people had asked the van drivers what it was going to be about, and they had said it was, somehow somebody got or they asked producers, but they thought it was going to be like the what was the Gladiators.
American
it was going to
Gladiators,
be similar to that. Yeah, to the American Gladiators, which I haven't even watched. I looked up some clips on YouTube to try to get an idea, and it was like a very dated show.
Oh, you watched? That's the best one. That's
or maybe I.
Yeah, that's the one I grew up with. It's so good.
That was I watched some of it, and I was like, is that what we're gonna be doing? Like, wow, that's kind of like still an idea. But we then they carted us all out there in September, and I'm trying to think. They did interviews for a couple days. They wanted to do interviews and B-roll, and we got to try on these fancy outfits that they had made, or the custom outfits. And then it was finally the first night for filming came, and I was supposed to film on the second night. So the first night came, and they had called, I think, like 8, 12, 16 people maybe, that they picked up in vans and brought out to the set, and still like nobody had any idea. But yeah, they came back from filming that night. A lot of us were like waiting up, and we were like, oh man, it's huge, it's so big, there's all the pyro stuff, the fireworks stuff, whatever, going off, and they were all pumped and excited, and I was just sitting there like, oh dang, like this is way over my head. But I went and filmed the next night, and my first competition was the Herculean pole, and I went against this girl that had gotten a call from The Rock, which they called like 6, or maybe they called 8 people, or The Rock called 8 people. And so I think they were kind of the ones that they thought like, oh, these are the ones that are going to do well. These are the cool people. Anyways, I went against her, and I'd found her on Instagram a little while before, and was like, she's done American Ninja Warrior, and she's a CrossFitter. Like, she's good at everything. I sure hope I don't have to go up against her. But then, of course, she was the first one I went against. Anyway, so we did the Herculean pole. They switched our obstacle at the last minute for reasons. She said she was scared of heights. So they switched our challenge from one that I was excited about to this one, which she was really excited about.
What?
But
That's
yeah,
that's
I
so lame. You can't.
did
It should
it.
be like, oh, you're scared of heights, then you're definitely doing it
Oh,
fun. Tough, tough stuff there.
oh yeah, I was pissed. I don't know if I should talk about it, but like I was really pissed, especially because she was all like worried and scared about it. I had spent the whole evening like, oh, she is all in her head. Like we were probably pretty evenly matched, but I was less in my head, and I was like, this is going to be fun. And because they had brought us out and let us try out this challenge, and she was doing okay, but like definitely like psyching herself out. But that's like part of competing. And so
Right.
I was spending the whole night. We were going to be like the last ones of the night, and I was spending the whole night like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, this is a fun, it's fun, it's big, and I think I have a good chance. Which I initially did not think I had a good chance. And then they called us out. Like, I think it was like two rounds. There were two sets of people left, and they called us out, and they're like, you have your hair and makeup done. Okay, like, come on out. And they said that she had spoken to the psychologist, and because they had a psychologist there, and it was apparently not her call, it was the psychologist's call, that because she had said she was scared of heights, but they deemed it like unsafe, like she might hurt herself. And so they decided to switch us to the other challenge, and they said, like, you can watch these people do it. There was this pair of girls that was going to go up and do it. You can watch it, and then they let you touch the I don't know, it was basically an upright wedge, and they had 4 silver poles, 2 on each side, and then 1 gold pole in the center. Did you watch this episode?
I did watch that part. Yeah. And you pull the poles out, right? It's like heavy. They're like heavy logs,
Did
right?
you watch this episode, Evan, of the first round?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's
Um,
basically heavy logs that you have to pull out of this giant wedge, right? And then the last one's like a tug of war.
yeah, right. So they were, 100-pound poles, and there were certain parts of the challenges that they would let us touch, and then others, you can't touch that. You have to just figure that out. But their thing was like, it's TV. We want it to look good, so get familiar with it. At least have an idea of what you're gonna do, so you don't, just look lost out there. Anyway, so they let us watch a round of people do it, and then they let us come out and pull the lower poles out a little ways, and then practice like running up to the gold pole, because it was all like foam, and it was all safety and stuff. So it was the stuff you're running across was foam padding and whatever. So as we went out there and tried it, and I was still like, this is not cool. She was excited, but I was definitely not. Anyways, yeah, we went out there, and I pulled out my, we started, and some girls were going the same pole and like starting a tug of war on the lower ones. But we went to opposite sides. I pulled out my first one, and then pulled out my second, and ran up to the gold pole, and like she wasn't at it yet. So I started pulling it, and then I thought I felt resistance, and I was like, okay, she's up here now. It's going to be tug of war. She is like 3 times muscle mass that I have. But right before they started, they had said, like, we're not sure if Christiana will have the grip strength. And I heard that. I heard the commentators say that, and I was like, oh, they don't even know. Like, grip strength is the one thing I do have. Anyways, so when I felt that resistance, I thought like, oh, she's up here. But then I heard her second silver pole drop, and I realized she's not even up. Like, I got to get this all the way through. And it hits a lever at the back, which is how you win. Anyways, so won that one, and then after that we went to Mount Olympus, and Mount Olympus is a series of I think it's four challenges up. You basically go up this 3 or 4 story mountain, side of a mountain. It's like a big ramp, basically. You go up it, and there's challenges on the way up. You come back down, and then you have to drag a massive concrete ball across the stage floor with a sledgehammer attached to it, and you have to sledgehammer through several pavers to get to a relic, a big T for Titan, and you have to run up and stick it into your I don't know what, your podium, I guess. You have to stick it in your podium and twist it, and then that causes all your fireworks to go off.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the way up was you start in the center of the arena, and they said it was 1,000-foot wall, but you basically had to like rock it back and forth to knock it over. And then there were 3 gates, I think they were calling them, but basically like weighted like huge grates on rollers that you have to push up, and they stack up to each other. I think they're maybe 100 pounds each or something, to where they, they add weight as you go up. And you had to push them up to a point to where you could get out. There was a, little notch in the wall to where you get out. You had to go up 5 rolling barrels. And so these barrels like rolled as you tried to jump over them. 5 rolling barrels. And then, which I think was the neatest part, was it was a drywall, a 12-foot tall drywall that you had to punch your own hand and foot grips, footholds, hand grips into, and climb up to get to the top level. And then at the top level, there's a crank where you have to crank a rope up and lift a torch up. And when the torch reaches the top, it lights. And once that torch lights, you can head back down. And so there were like 3 big slides, slide and then a wall that you slid back down the mountain, and then it was that pulling the concrete ball. So I went on that one against a obstacle course racer who had actually gotten second at the ultra beast that I got third at, and I'd seen her name, but I'd never met her before. So I met her. She's from California, really neat. And I was obviously like, she has all my same strengths. Like, I don't have anything on her. But I made it up faster than her. I think she had a little bit of difficulty I think I got through the gates, the initial gates, faster than she did. I was just a little bit faster than her the whole way up. Got back down, but I was having a hard time pulling this concrete ball. And she came down there and just manhandled it and dragged it right across. Like, I was probably halfway across the arena when she got down to the concrete ball. And we both got to the pavers, or the boxes with the T inside, at about the same time. And I think I won by like seconds. It was supposedly like I think one of the closest competitions of Mount Olympus, something like that. So I barely won by the skin of my teeth there, and that moved me on to the next round.
Yeah, so
after you hit Mount Olympus, after you win Mount Olympus, you become a Titan. And so there were 8 female Titans and 8 male Titans.
And then, so it was basically an elimination style tournament where basically if you lose one, you get bumped out. So you started off with what, 32 people total?
I believe you said at the beginning of the
podcast? Yeah, there were 32 people in the pool. And then, after that initial round, it's down to 16. And then those 16 go to Mount Olympus. And, the 8 winners from that are then Titans. And after that, the Titans then go back to the challenges. So they I think they pulled out a couple new challenges, but they also just used some of the old ones, some of the ones that had already been done. And those 8 females, 8 males paired up against each other again and narrow each other down. I made it through that selection and made it to the top 4, which I think they considered the semifinals. And then from the semifinals, there's, 4 guys, 4 gals. Then they narrowed it down to 2. And then those 2, the 2 final pairs go up on Mount Olympus again. And it's a little bit harder than it was the first round. And the winner of that is the winner of the show.
Yeah. So spoiler alert.
I got knocked out on the...
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. I got knocked out. I made it through when there were the 8 people. I made it through my obstacles. They had, I think it was 5 or 6 upright poles or pillars that and you stand, and they're in a circle, and you stand in the middle. There's 6 of them maybe, and you stand in the middle, and using a massive concrete ball that's hung from up above, it's hung from a rope. You use a rope on the other side to basically swing it around, and I don't even know what you would call that, but swing around, and as it hits you have to swing it around a certain direction, and as it hits that concrete, the big pillar, the pillar is on a hinge, and so it knocks over. So I think there might have been 5 pillars, but made it on that one, I think just by a pillar or 2, and moved into the top 4. And then in the top 4 is when my challenge was, I don't even know what they called it now. I dislike it. I try to block it out of my memory. But this one was you basically you had to lift up 3 weighted boxes to access a sledgehammer, and then you had to use the sledgehammer to pound in basically this big ramming. What do you call it? Like a ramming
Battering
something.
ram.
Battering ram. Yeah, that one. I think that's what the obstacle is called too. So you had to. This battering ram was suspended, and you had to. There were 2 points where you had to basically like hammer in something that would release the rope, and you would release both ends of the battering ram, and then use that to try to break through these huge wooden doors. And she got through the wooden doors before I did.
It seems like the competition is so versatile and there's so many unique challenges. Like, if you had a chance to go back on the show, what would you do differently to prepare, or could you do anything differently? You just kind of have to take it in stride.
I think you absolutely have to just take it in stride. And I think that may have been somewhat of an advantage to me because, you know, on obstacle courses, you have no idea what's coming next. Like you have a general idea of maybe what your obstacles are, but you're just like, you know, running along this trail, coming upon an obstacle, figuring out how to complete it, completing it, and moving on. And going into the time games kind of with that attitude of like, I have no idea what to expect, but I know I'm fit. I know I'm capable of, you know, whatever I put my mind to. There's a good chance I can get through it. So all of these challenges, most of them we did not see until the night we competed. It was all filmed at night. So we didn't see until the night we competed. There were definitely, you know, there were athletes from all different disciplines, and a lot of them were freaking out about competing at night and not being warmed up, and, you know, how are you supposed to train for this? Like, and it's the kind of things you can't train for any of it. You can train your muscles so much, like in a gym, lifting your regular weights, whatever, but you cannot train mentally for that. Or it's hard to train mentally for something like that. You can't train mentally for that just by going to the gym and working out and getting strong. And this was so much, like, it was absolutely very physical, but a lot of it was also mental. And, you know, seeing this huge, big, grandiose thing, understanding how it's supposed to be completed, and trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I get through this in the most efficient way? And, you know, the fastest, most efficient way. So I guess training for it, I would have liked to be stronger. I think being a little bit stronger would have been an advantage. But besides that, I think, you know, the mental game was a huge. The mental game is the only way that I made it that far, for sure. The mental game is just enough. It's just that like extra, like, I think I got it. I can do this. Like, I can push this hard for this long, and I think that's how I've made it as far as I have in general. I don't come into it with a lot of experience. I don't come into it with any kind of strength or speed advantage. But I have or I've always had like a can-do attitude. Like, I can do that, and I'm going to do the best that I can. So I think that served me well in it. I definitely would like to be stronger. I think being stronger is geared toward strength. So being stronger would have helped. But
Well, that's awesome. I think that was a great answer. I loved all those points, and it sounds like you're right. That mental attitude really took you farther than some of the athletes who were maybe faster or stronger than you.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you can see it even on that first challenge where the one girl essentially quits before it even starts. So technically, she should have been eliminated beforehand, in my
Right.
opinion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So before I want to start wrapping things up, but I have a couple more questions. So take me through like a week in your training life as you prep for an OC.
So, yeah, week in my training life. I work out at Grit Fitness, which is a gym here in the area. They've really taken me in, and I had zero coaching of any kind before this, and so coming into it, like, I've never trained as an athlete before, and the owner, Kenny, has been really, I guess he sees potential in me and wants to, you know, I came to him and I told him, I was like, you know what, like, I'm decently good at these, but I want to be really good. I have no idea how to get there. So they do a lot of, I've gotten really involved there, and they do a lot of basic WODs. They'll do, just good, what do you call it? What kind of discipline is CrossFit?
I mean, it's like its own discipline. Functional fitness, a lot of people call it.
Functional fitness. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to call it. So it's like functional fitness. So I'll do several of the workouts a week. I coach several days, so I'll do the workout then. So I do several like functional fitness, just whatever. It's a lot of body weight, kettlebells, use sandbags. But they're really like good full body conditioning and enjoyable. Kenny will write extra workouts for me, which we haven't been doing a whole lot of lately because I've been kind of down. My knee has been, I couldn't run for like the past month. Finally just got back to running like a week ago. But ideally, I'd be doing some of these extra workouts that he'll write for me that are more focused on OCR. We don't have any hills here. So training for hills, we either run the mile-long bridge to the beach that kind of, it's a mile long, half a mile up, half a mile down. We do that. We run on the sand some too. We also just do a lot of leg strength stuff. So we'll do lunges, we'll do sled pulls, sled pushes, just the kind of stuff that will get me ready for, I don't race on mountains a whole lot, but when I do, I've always felt really well prepared for it. So that's working. Running wise, we'll do a speed workout on the track once a week. This is like our official running plan, I guess, is a speed workout. And then we have a like mid-distance, mid-speed, I guess kind of faster, run or several throughout the week. And then we'll normally try to do a long run on Saturday or Sunday. And that's, most Saturdays try to run for 2 hours in the morning. We got like early morning on the bridge and on the beach because that's all we have here. So I'll try to do a long run. We also, on the weekends, we have these OCR sims that the gym will do. It's basically you run about a third of a mile, a little lap that we have around it's around a baseball field. But we'll run a lap and then come into the gym and do either an obstacle or like a workout station. So we'll either do like lunges down the turf and back, or sometimes we'll do 30 burpees. And in between each of those, we're going to run laps. So we'll do like 7 laps. And it's basically, kind of the equivalent of a Spartan sprint, where you're running about 3 to 5 miles and doing obstacles every third of a mile. So at our gym, we have a big monkey bars. We have rings. They've built a twister. They have like the Olympus at Spartan. They also have a Z wall or traverse wall like they have at Spartan. We have an 8-foot wall. We have warped walls. We have a pegboard. We have like everything, a lot of those basic obstacles. So they have 2 of those on Saturday. And a lot of times I'll try to do both of them and get in, 6 to 10 miles with obstacles in between. But I guess that's not really part of the training. Because for me, like those are the fun ones. But the training ones, we try to do the speed, a mid distance, or kind of depends on the week, and then a long run.
Well, sounds great. I mean, that's pretty much right up the alley of what I would recommend. VO2 max sprint distance workout once a week, aerobic run that's long at once a week, and then kind of a lactic threshold, kind of faster paced, kind of in between the 2 distances run.
Yeah.
And on top of that, obstacle specificity, right? So doing obstacles and transitioning back to running and back and forth. So
yeah. Oh yeah, that's huge. And every time I do those sims, I really like racing. Like I only train so that I can race because I love to race and I love competing. Like race weekends are my favorite. I love the atmosphere. I love the competitiveness, and I love the feeling of racing. So for me, the sims are like that high of like, it reminds me of like, okay, this is why I put in the work, and especially seeing the progress and feeling better during those runs and all that. Those are my fun, like, this is why I train.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Now, we talked a little bit about earlier, the Grit Games, and since we were talking about Grit Fitness, tell us a little bit about that and kind of when they are this year and what that entails.
So the Grit Games is a competition that Grit Fitness, OCR, put together, and it is it's an OCR specific competition. Last year was our first year, and it was a really great competition, good turnout. And this year is definitely going to be even better. It is the first weekend in August, and it's basically, I think it's similar to last year. I'm not entirely sure what they have up their sleeve, but last year it had 5 events that kind of focused on each, or each focused on a different specific OCR specific, I don't know what you look,
Skill?
strength, skill. Yeah, there you go. So one of them was, let me see if I can remember them. There was a strength one, and strength was, it was a lot of bucket carries, over the shoulders, her hoist, and basically all of that put into, I kind of forget how it was formatted, but anyways, they had, yeah, so it had very like strength specific aspects of it, and that was put into a basic workout, I guess, but it timed, and they had strength, they had speed. I forget what the speed one was. For one of them, we did, it's I guess a Yancey camp workout, the burp 400, where you run 400 meters and come in and do as many burpees as you can. Or I guess you set the timer for 3 minutes, go out and run 400 meters, then come in and do as many burpees as you can before the 3 minutes is up. When that 3 minutes is up, restart the timer, go do it again, and your score is the burpees. So I think that was the endurance one. So that was the endurance event, was basically running and burpees and trying to get the highest score. They had a what would grip be? Whatever skill it would fall under. I'm drawing a blank on what the events were, but they had built a 60-foot rig with a salmon ladder, some monkey bars, a floating bridge, a cargo net, like a horizontal cargo net, and then I think a stairway to heaven. It ended with twister. So that was their grip specific event, and you're scored on how far you can get and how fast. That's kind of, and then at the end they had basically an OCR sim where you went and ran a lap, came in and did an obstacle, ran a lap, came in and did an obstacle. So that was the final one. And I might be missing one, but that's about it's about what I'm recalling right now. And it was a really, really neat event that focused on all the different aspects, and your score was added up throughout the day based on how well you did in those. So really, I guess like all inclusive. Every skill got it, or every person kind of got a chance to shine in like their specific whatever they're good at. And it was really fun. It was cash prizes, team options as well. A lot of people at the gym aren't super competitive, like tried an OCR or two, whatever, but they were able to come and do teams and, split the workouts up. So it wasn't one person doing an entire workout and then there were also competitive teams that really went all out and got to, team up. So that is the Grit Games. And they
Cool.
also had, they had an open, an elite, and a children's. So there's a lot of kids that come to the gym and train, and they were all able to compete, and they had really neat medals, and then the trophies for first place were these basically like a rhino bust trophy, which is really cool. But yeah, that was the Grit Games.
Yeah, it sounds like a really fun event, and I like all the different kind of breaking out the obstacles, specific skills into different events, and giving everyone a chance to shine. That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're gonna start wrapping it up. Before we go, any final shout outs you want to give to friends, family, sponsors, etc.?
I shout out to Matt, my now husband. We just got married a couple weeks ago, and he puts up with a lot from me, a lot of last minute travel, a lot of runs that may interfere with what time he would rather spend doing other things, and he cooks a lot for me. So thankful for Matt, and then also for Grit Fitness and Kenny, the owner, is coaching me, and I would definitely not be where I am today if it were not for them. And that's about as far as it goes with sponsors. I'm thinking about trying to find other sponsors, but yeah, Grit Fitness has really been my introduction and my biggest support in OCR and this racing world. So that's about it.
Cool.
I guess I really enjoy also the friends aspect, like all the people that we've met through OCR, and there's somebody of every flavor, but makes it interesting. And so yeah, I really like the people side of OCR too, I guess.
Sounds like you got a great support system going there, backing you up between Grit Fitness and your husband. And congratulations on getting married recently.
Let's go. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
thank you.
For the listeners, we are sold out of Bleg mitts, the 3mm ones, for those of you who are picking up gloves for Toughest Mudder or Ultra Beast or any of the other cold weather OCRs or endurance OCRs. But we do have Bleg mitt lights. So Bleg mitt lights are the 1mm gloves. The regular Bleg mitts are 3mm. So these ones are a little bit lighter, but I think they're better for the non-ultra OCR races. So those are now on sale. We send them in from Australia, so they kind of come in waves. We probably won't get regular Bleg mitts in until probably like July when the next shipment comes in.
Which Bleg mitts did you use for World's Toughest Mudder last year? And did they serve you well, or did you use Bleg mitts?
So I used last year's model Bleg mitts, which are vastly inferior to the two models that are out now.
Yeah. Okay.
So the last year's model was
good
2
things
mil.
about them. And
Yeah,
I've
last
heard
year's model was 2.
basically everybody died at the World's Toughest Mudder, but everybody also talked very highly of Bleg mitts. So I'm like, got to be something to them.
Yeah, I mean they're amazing. I mean they're designed by World's Toughest Mudder champion Deanna Bleg, right? Who does adventure racing too. So she knows what works and what doesn't. And she tests stuff. So yeah, they're like I said, they're sent in from Australia, so we get them in waves. And 1mm, I have plenty of small, medium, and large. And the 3mm, I'm out. So other than that, Mud Run Guide's Ultimate OCR Bucket List. So if you want to hear about a variety of different races, kind of like Kris was talking about earlier on this episode, that book has over 100 event types that's now available from teamstrengthspeed.com. You can pick that up. And then I just put out my newest book for pre-order, which I'm not going to talk about yet, but if you want to get a good look at it, you can go over and check it out on the teamstrengthspeed.com website. And that new book that's coming out, which will be out at the end of the month, all the profits from that go to charity, Charity Folds of Honor. So check that out if you have time. And that's about it. Kris, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And I will see you, I don't know, I'll see you at some race this year, NORAM, if I don't see you before then.
Yep, there we go.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.